Hello divers, welcome back to The Waterman. I am your instructor Alex. Today we are going to talk about yoke versus din. If you're watching this video, you're probably in the market for a regulator and you're trying to decide if you should get yoke or if you should get din. So let's talk about the differences between the two. I'm going to start with yoke being the more popular option here. You'll notice right away, kind of goes around the tank valve. This is something if you're a certified diver, more than likely, this is the type of first stage that you are familiar with. This sits on top of the tank valve, and this part goes inside of the tank valve, this little groove right here. And you screw this onto the back of the tank, like so. And this little part seals on the O-ring, this part anchors itself on, and so it doesn't need a very deep connection because it's anchoring itself on there. Now, this is the most common first stage you're gonna see around the world, so the reason I would get yoke over din is because it's more popular. If you're the type of person that, just dives in the tropics, you book your dive, you wanna show up on the boat, and not have, any more complications than you need. You're not really super into nerding out on, having the most perfect top of the line gear. You just want to keep it simple. Yoke's going to be better, and the reason being is if you've got a din regulator, one of two things. You either have to have an adapter, you either always have to travel with an adapter, assuming that the dive shop you're going to doesn't have tank valves that can accommodate your din regulator, and so you have an adapter that converts it to a yoke, which I'll cover in a sec. Or you got to call the shop ahead of time and only arrange to dive at shops that have tank valves that can accommodate a din regulator. So for the typical recreational diver that doesn't want any complications, wants to just keep their dive experience the way it's been, you just want to buy some gear so that you stop paying rental fees and so that you can get in the water a little bit more often now that you own your gear. The yoke is going to be the best system for you. Moving on to the din, remove the dust cap here. The din doesn't have that anchor point that goes around the tank. It actually screws right into the tank valve here. So it needs to be much deeper into that tank valve for the same kind of secure connection. One thing you'll notice right away is there's no knob on the back as there is with the yoke setup. That's why this is definitely the preference amongst technical divers. Technical diving, you're in confined spaces. Whether that's a wreck, a cave, usually you've got your running line, and just anything you can do to make your gear more streamlined is going to help, including eliminating that little knob on the back there. I also dive a lot here in Southern California. We have a lot of kelp, so even though I'm not technical diving, I do see that knob get snagged on kelp a lot. Not having it, does keep you from getting snagged a bit out here, even though we're not doing technical diving. They're still open water dives. That's the reason I prefer it. Also, if you ever do plan on continuing your education into the technical diving world, if you've purchased a din regulator and that regulator is, a well-rated rated regulator for the type of diving you're going to do, if it's ice diving or whatever, then yeah, you could use that regulator into your technical diving experiences because it's din and it works for that. One thing to keep in mind is you can actually convert this. So if I ever wanted this regulator to be a yoke, I could convert it if I bought the correct parts for it. And same with the yoke regulator, I can convert it to a din. So it's not like you're stuck if you buy a regulator, you're stuck with it. I mean, you do have to spend the money on converting it, but it's not the end all be all. So overall, I prefer din because it's a little bit more streamlined. I think it's a little bit more secure of a connection. Once in a while, I do see O-rings shoot out of, and this isn't any fault of the design of the yoke. It's typically just the wrong O-ring was put in the tank valve, and so it can slip out because that little groove on the yoke goes into the tank valve a lot less than this part of the din regulator does. So those are the main reasons I prefer a din, but like I said, if you're the type of diver that doesn't want to nerd out on their gear, just wants to, fly to whatever dive center they're going to go and dive at. They don't want to have to request special tanks or bring an adapter. So just get a yoke. That's going to be, keep things much simpler. For example, I just bought my mom a new regulator, and she's been diving a long time. She's got a lot of experience, but She's not an instructor. She's not a technical diver. She's a typical recreational, diver that likes going to the tropics. And because I didn't want her to have to call and ask the dive center, oh, do you have tanks that can accommodate my regulator, or have her have to worry about an adapter, I decided that the Yoke was going to be what was best for her. It's not inferior in any way, and she's not going to care about that little knob on the back being, slightly less streamlined. So the adapter, here's what the adapter looks like. This is the adapter that turns a DIN regulator into that can work on a Yoke tank valve. So you basically just screw the adapter onto your regulator, and now this can go on a Yoke valved tank. If you know that you're gonna dive it with an adapter all the time, just get a Yoke. Because you'll notice right away, looking at the two, an adapted DIN to Yoke is way bigger and bulkier than a purpose Yoke. So if you think that you're just gonna be diving Yoke tanks, you're gonna be adapting all the time, just get a Yoke. It'll be more streamlined more of the time than the few times that you do get access to a DIN tank. As you can see, we can adapt a DIN regulator to a Yoke, and so you might be thinking, well, then why don't I get a DIN? Because that seems universal. It seems more universal. As I said, the Yoke's more universal in the sense that, it's just more abundant, there's more of them. But what I do want to show you is the different types of tank valves now, because almost any tank valve that can accommodate a DIN regulator can also accommodate a Yoke regulator just by adding a little insert. Whereas there are tank valves that are made for Yoke regulators that cannot be used with a DIN without an adapter. There's no way to get the DIN regulator in there. You're seeing more and more tank valves that are that are basically DIN tank valves that have the insert in them all the time so that they're always set up for a Yoke. You're seeing that more and more. So I think it will get easier and easier to have a DIN regulator. But just wanted you to see that, if you look at the difference in these two tank valves, on this DIN tank valve here, I can just add this little insert, and now it works for a Yoke regulator. Whereas if you look at this purpose Yoke valve, I can't add that insert. I can't do anything other than put an adapter on my DIN regulator. Anyway, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And in the comments, let me know what I can do that would be most helpful for you guys. Thanks so much.